Hello.
And we're live. We already got a thumbs up from someone. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. Are you curious about the raw vegan lifestyle but overwhelmed by all the myths swirling around from it's a cult, needing excessive supplements to lacking enough protein and it's an eating disorder? There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so in today's episode, we're going to break down the most common myths about raw veganism and show you what's really true and what's not from our personal perspectives. I'm personally high raw vegan, so not 100% raw. I've had large stretches of time of being 100% raw. So has my mom, who's here with me. Dorrell
Hello.
Hylton Salmon. Hello, mom.
I am the one.
Yes, so she has done raw for periods of time for a variety of different things, typically for like detoxes and with certain health goals and things of that nature. So just introduce myself too. I'm Samantha Salmon, certified integrative nutrition coach, brain health licensed trainer. I got basically into raw veganism to make a long story very short, because when I went vegan, I gained 20 pounds and I knew I was going in the wrong direction. And it was basically because I was eating a lot of bread, a lot of pasta. I basically just took dairy, meat, and eggs out of my diet, but I didn't incorporate vegetables because I didn't like vegetables, right? I went from the standard American diet and not liking vegetables to going vegan and gaining 20 pounds. And so raw veganism was like, had the allure of losing weight and getting into vegetables because it seemed like a common sense thing to me because I was raised in a Jamaican household where, of course, you eat vegetables. We had meat in the house, we had milk in the house, we had eggs. I was baking as a young child. We had fish in the house. We had even processed food from Costco in the house, right? But vegetables was always being pushed, by you, mom, and your siblings.
Yes,
It
true.
just made sense. That's how you guys were raised, right?
Yes.
Which you were basically raised plant-based, right? Because you didn't have meat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You didn't have meat like 3 times a day and all this kinds of
No,
stuff.
once a week.
Yeah, yeah. Which
Yeah,
is
once a
basically
week.
the definition of plant based is that you're eating it small quantities very infrequently and that type of thing, which I think
Mm-hmm.
most of our ancestral diets are plant based.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so you may have heard that going raw means missing out on vital nutrients and that's impossible to get enough protein or that it's way too expensive. Oh my gosh, I've gotten this a lot on the videos on YouTube. And you probably heard that it's time consuming. So these concerns are real and I understand why they might make you hesitate to give, raw foods a try. But here's the thing. Raw veganism is not as complicated or limiting as it seems. And many of these myths are stopping people from experiencing the benefits of this powerful lifestyle, which is exactly why I talk about it so much because there's so much potential here as another option to what the medical system is offering. Um, so in this episode, we're gonna debunk some myths, like do raw vegans really need to take a bunch of supplements? Is it true you can't get enough protein from plants? Isn't a raw vegan diet super expensive and time consuming? Will a raw vegan diet leave you feeling weak and tired? And so by the end of this conversation, you'll have a clear understanding of what it means to follow a raw vegan diet or even a high raw diet, and how it can actually be simple, nutritious, and deeply energizing. So let's start with those big concerns first and foremost. Do raw vegans really need to take a bunch of supplements? Um, uh, I would say no. Right? I would say no. First of all, I don't right now. I'm actually experimenting with B12 again because I'm still trying to figure out. I'm not 100% convinced on the science behind the necessity However, Dr. Greger's latest book, How Not to Age, he did dial up the information a little bit more to like have some more fear around not taking it. And, you know, I don't know if it's stress or maybe I need some electrolytes, but just through some muscle spasms or nerve twitches or whatever, I figured, let me just try the B12 again. I feel like I did this before and it didn't do anything, but now I'm going to give it a longer stretch of time of 90 days to see if it makes a difference. I honestly just think it's probably stress related and probably has to do with the water I'm drinking too, because my water's distilled. So I'm in the midst of an experiment. I don't know. And then too, before I send it over to you, Ma, on this. But we had a registered dietitian, Vasanto Molina, on the channel before. I interviewed her. She wrote a book called Becoming Raw. You can actually search on my YouTube channel and just put in her name, Vasanto Molina, or on rawfoodmealplanner.com. You can search in the search bar for the blog. It's called The Raw Truth, Achieving Health and Balance with Vasanto Molina. And even if you put that whole string in Google, it should bring it up for you. But she's a registered dietitian. She wrote a whole book called Becoming Raw, and basically how to do it in a balanced way so you're not missing any nutrients. And I think it's really hard to miss nutrients. I mean, unless you're mono-mealing on stuff. But if you're doing the same thing as a clean eating vegan where you're rotating your fruits and vegetables, like I don't think you should need necessarily supplementation. Although if you're taking medicine, pharmaceutical drugs, those things and stress also too sometimes can deplete certain nutrients and vitamins where you need to shore up with supplements, right? Especially if you're taking pharma drugs, you need to shore up with supplements because every time you take those pharma drugs, you're losing some nutrients. And if the stress is just overwhelmingly so bad and you have limitations on how much raw foods you can eat, I mean, there's a potential, you know, depending on how sick you are. But I personally, you know, haven't had to really, like, I don't take any supplements really. What about you, Ma?
I do. But my supplements is for my bones. And I tell you something, if I the journey that I'm on now, if I was doing this when I was much younger, probably I wouldn't have to take anything. But I take supplement. You know the vitamin that I take. It's right. And I take
magnesium or something, or
yeah. And you know, like when you get older, you have to make sure those bones are staying right, and that's what I do. But it wasn't told to me by a doctor that something is wrong because when I go for my checkup, everything seems to be doing right. But I don't want to wait till anything go wrong. And I know when you get older, there's certain things, if your bone not strong, you know.
Yeah.
And as I said, I wasn't eating like this for very long. I am a new raw, 95% raw vegan person.
Yeah, which is like high raw, we would call that. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, I kind of dropped the standards.
And that's the part too. That I wanna talk about that. But first, I want to acknowledge Delia. Delia, thank you so much for joining us live on Facebook. Nice to see you. Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I want to talk about what you're saying because the reason why this whole notion of that I've been seeing online about raw veganism is a cult and that these people have eating disorders is because of who has the larger platforms. First of all, if you are naked on social media talking about raw foods, everybody wants to look. You know, like sex sells in media and social media, right? And so these people get so much attention. And what they talk about on their platform, it's like, look at me, I'm skinny and I'm naked. And like this, I ate raw to get here. And it's like, yeah, you could do that. But there's the reason why it's important to me. Like I said, I gained 20 pounds going vegan. And the only reason I went vegan was because of Dr. Neil Barnard's book, Dr. Neil Barnard's program for reversing diabetes or something like that, it says. So basically, I wanted to avoid the outcome my grandma had around type 2 diabetes, which is killing many people in my community as a Black woman, right? And so that's why I went vegan. But obviously, if I'm gaining weight and excess fat is it's implicated in all these chronic diseases because it's causing inflammation in the body. It's right constricting blood flow to the brain, so causing cognitive health issues, cardiovascular issues. I mean, a lot of these metabolic disorders that's affecting, again, Black people, right, in America, in Western countries, not just America, the UK as well, Jamaica, West Indies as well, which my family's from. Like, you know, it's something that we need to take seriously. It's not about being skinny and being on a magazine. It's about being healthy and having quality of life, not having limbs cut off, right? And so I think that's where the disconnect is in this conversation, which is why I really felt it necessary to start a podcast and to have you on it too, Mom, because, you know, not too many people are seeing a Jamaican woman who's a boomer talk about raw foods, you know, like nobody, right? You know? So because, and I'm pretty sure maybe there's somebody out there, but they don't have, like, unless you're naked online, it's like you have very few people, honestly, it's like you have very few people watching you. Like, and I can tell you, even for the more mature folks who are talking about healthy, clean eating, like I can mention Chef Babette, right? And one of the things that she does all the time is every year, and, you know, kudos to her. I'm not shaming anybody who wants to be naked online, okay? That's not my jam, but do whatever you want to do to be happy, right? But Chef Babette, she likes to do these photo shoots where she's in a bathing suit or something. It's like skin tight, or she's showing skin, she's showing her muscles and stuff. And, you know, there's benefit to that because there are older folks around her age who see her and they're like, oh, wow, I want to do that too, right? But because she's so naked, you know, right? She's not like covered in clothes. She's like showing off her body. She, you know, it just, the metrics love it. People love it. They're attracted to it. You have more viewership, more eyeballs, and now, boom, platform. That's what people see.
Because that's what sells.
That's what sells. And this is not shade on Chef Babette. Love what she's doing, right? But I'm just saying, I think that's why you have this crazy, like, conversation happening online about, you know, raw veganism is an eating disorder. I mean, when I say Dr. Baxter Montgomery, he's a cardiologist with a wellness center in Texas, using raw foods, getting people off of hospice care, getting people who are critically ill, who aren't even qualified for medical procedures, getting them healthier so they can qualify for medical procedures. You understand what I'm saying? This thing, raw foods, is even more potent than even pharmaceutical drugs, and we know that based on scientific research, evidence. Also, we have Dr. Brooke Goldner, who I had on my channel. You can search her name on my channel. I interviewed her. She reversed stage 4 kidney failure and lupus with raw foods, right? Now, to say that this healing diet is a eating disorder has me really perplexed. You understand? Because nobody says the fact that McDonald's is now in so many different countries, that America is outsourcing an eating disorder. Like, I would love to hear people say that. You know what I'm saying? I was in Poland, not last year, but 2 years ago. They brought over Popeyes to Poland, and it was such a big deal. Like, the line was long. They ran ads. I mean, it was a huge deal. Oh, Popeyes coming to Poland. Nobody says America is exporting our eating disorder, of fried foods, of these cardiovascular and cardiovascular killing and cancer causing foods. No one's calling that an eating disorder. We have obesity rates that have skyrocketed in this country, and yet nobody's calling that an eating disorder. Yet the
Right.
foods that are actually getting people healed and well, getting their organs back online after so much damage, people are, and it's just like the lunacy, it drives me wild. I'm sorry, it just drives me wild. Like, where's the sense in people? I think we're so far removed from common sense in media right now.
Well, sometimes people will reach a stage in their life when they're very close to the edge. And I use myself as an example because I've been doing uh, natural foods, as you know. We call it vegan, which is natural. I call it natural food. I wouldn't consider it to be a vegetarian because vegetarian do eat eggs and stuff like that. But although I was a vegan, I wasn't doing raw all along, but I was at the edge where I had to go raw. One time for 6 weeks, another time, and I know I'm raw right now because uh, high raw, as I said, 95% of my meals are raw. And I'm doing it now because of to get the inflammation out of my body. And that's why I said sometimes people wait until certain things happen in their life before they make a change. I
Yeah.
am one of those. I'm one of those people. As I said, I was vegan until I went raw vegan. Okay? And it's like when you go to the doctor and he say, okay, I put you on this antibiotic and you have to finish the pill because it's 30 pills and you have to finish it for a month until you feel better or you get rid of the condition. But being on this journey, it's not it's not a destination.
Right.
It's for the rest of your life, like you want to be healthy. You don't want to be healthy just for a month. You want to be healthy for the rest of your life. And that's for me, that's the knowledge that I get from it because I know what's good for my body. I know what will keep me away from illness. I don't want
Right.
to go on the journey that I see my mother went on. And I give God thanks because when my mother was my age, she had all kind of illness. Thank God today my illness is just a bulging this, and that don't cause from wrong diet. That no cause from because if that was caused from wrong diet, my this would be bulging. It caused from the improper posture, and now you move your back or you set your body for over the years. 42 years I've been bending down, doing what I was doing work on my, part of my job is to shampoo and have myself positioned in certain way for a certain period of time. So it caused my bones to shift. And then I'm a person who always think I'm so strong, so I don't care what something is and I want to move it and lift it up. I always think I'm some kind of superwoman until when the situation start to occur. But I give God thanks right now that I don't have any diseases that I have to say, okay, I have to do this to do. No, I just don't want, I want to prevent it. That's what I'm doing. I want to be able to prevent things happening in my body.
And the other concern or myth that people have is around protein too. And like I said, this registered dietitian, Basanto Molina, she wrote a whole book on it, right? There, you're not missing any protein. People think
None
even being
whatsoever.
vegan that you're missing protein. And the thing is that, and even this idea around complete proteins, it's like, trust. Y'all need to understand God is really good, okay?
All the time.
God is so good that as long as you eat the food he's provided and you eat to satisfaction, right? Don't starve yourself. And you eat with the season and you eat locally, which means you're naturally switching up stuff, right? Because we don't have the same produce available every season of the year, regardless of where you are, right? Things change, things switch up. We have different options. As long as you're doing that, you have enough protein.
Yes.
Your body makes the complete protein. Yeah, you could have quinoa, it's a complete protein by itself, but why are you just gonna eat quinoa? You're not just gonna eat quinoa by itself. You
You're
know,
gonna
there's
make, and then that's another thing where people have a misunderstanding about greens, though. Season your green. If you were a meat eater, you wouldn't just throw the meat in the pot and cook it and eat it like that. You season
right.
your meat for it to taste nice. Sometimes you even leave it, let it marinate overnight. No, you're not gonna do that to your greens because you want it nice and fresh and alive. So you season your green and make it taste good when you put it in your mouth. I've
Mm-hmm.
never had a salad that tastes bad. Never.
Right. Because you season it.
Season it. Do
And you
your
know,
homework.
even your what you just said about marinating overnight, when it comes to like, the coleslaw, I think everybody's pretty much familiar with coleslaw. You can make that raw vegan and you would marinate that overnight because it's more of a tougher
Right.
vegetable. And
Yes.
when you
Yes.
marinate it, it gets softer the next day and it's very delicious because all that stuff has basically, mixed and
Yeah.
marinated. It tastes delicious on the next day.
But I'd give you a little tip about the hardness. A coleslaw don't have to be hard. If you get organic cabbage and you make sure you cut it very fine, because that thing is it's actually sweet. It has a sweet taste to it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be sitting there for anything to salt it because it tastes very, very nice. It just need is all the fineness of how you cut it.
Right. Yeah. So Dahlia is active in the chat. She says, it takes so much effort to make a dish. I love salad, but I don't want it all the time.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you live in my house, honey. You eat it every day.
Seriously, I'm at the point now where I'm just snacking on greens, but clearly I didn't get here overnight, right? When I
No.
started, like I said, in 2008, I didn't even like vegetables. Now I can eat kale without any dressing and just chew on it by itself. Same thing with romaine lettuce. We were just talking before we went live how much we're enjoying romaine lettuce right now. It's a journey. Your palate changes. The only reason you're craving certain foods that, and I specifically want to talk about the foods that aren't serving you and your health goal, right? So for a lot of people already know about not eating red meat, right? Dahlia mentioned I'm no longer eating red meat. Very good. Congratulations. There's also implications with other types of food. So I know, Ma, you have a great testimony about not having dairy anymore and what that did for your sinuses and all this kinds of
Oh
stuff.
yes. Oh yeah.
But even dairy, for folks who struggle to get off of dairy, the reason why you're craving it all the time is because you keep eating it. From a neuroscience perspective, every time you do a habit, even one that's not helpful for you, you keep
Mm-hmm.
reinforcing, like physically. There's
Mm-hmm.
a process called myelinization where the wiring basically in the brain that gets coded, there's a coating that goes over it, but it's basically reinforcing patterns. So you end
Mm-hmm.
up stuck in a pattern. Every time you do it, you're reinforcing it, reinforcing it, reinforcing it. So you're stuck in a pattern. You have to be intentional about changing that pattern.
Right.
Also, when you keep eating this food, you're feeding the bacteria that the pathogenic bacteria that loves this food, that feeds off of this food, right? This is bacteria that is not helping you in your health, right? It's
Right.
working against your health, right? We have more bacteria on us than human DNA, and this bacteria is actually dictating our cravings and sending neurotransmitters to the brain, which are basically messages saying, you want this, right? You want the chips, you want the, like when you feel like, oh my gosh, I want bread, I want da da da. It's not you that's saying this, it's the bacteria, right? But if
Yeah.
you keep eating that stuff, you're feeding that bacteria. It's harder and harder for you to get off of it, right? You have to be very
Exactly.
intentional about getting off.
Right. Because when I stopped ice cream, that bacteria died, completely died, because I don't have a craving for ice cream, not even vegan ice cream. And I tell you why I don't eat vegan ice cream unless I make my own. It is too sweet.
Mm.
I don't like stuff that's too sweet. It is too sweet. I see a lot of recipe to make it. No, too sweet. Don't want it. I'm done with that.
Yeah, and the issue too with vegan ice cream is it has oil in it. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
y'all seen that in the ingredients, but there's a
All
lot of
these.
refined sugar, which is really bad
Mhm.
for, right?
Yes. Yes.
And oil, you know.
Yes. Yes. And all these years I've been was eating ice cream. I didn't even know that they have to use oil to make ice cream. Didn't have the knowledge. Didn't know what was in there because that stuff tastes so good.
Yeah.
But thank God, I thank God for this journey though, because it has helped me, and I'm hoping all this that we're putting out there can help someone.
Yeah. Dahlia also had mentioned, about the time, right? The time and effort. So this is also one of those myths because I find that raw food meals are the quickest thing to make. Like I spend less than 5 minutes to make a meal.
But
Now,
you don't
if
have to
you
cook anything.
exactly like there's like what you doing? You just washing and cutting, like.
Let me tell you the longest time it takes for me, and I'm gonna be honest with you. The longest time it takes for me to eat like this is to go shopping to buy the stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't order my stuff. I go and I buy it and I look at it and I pick it out and yes, although they says that it's power wash, triple wash 3 times, I'm still washing my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't find that hard because I think I'm taking care of me. So whenever I'm doing something for myself, I don't find it very hard. It's very easy. And you don't have to cook anything for an hour or 20 minutes or so. You're only gonna prep your stuff and put it on the table. It's very simple, very easy.
Yep. Very
It's not
simple.
hard.
Now, if you doing raw gourmet all the time, which you can, like let's say you have a craving for pizza or lasagna, you can make raw vegan versions, right? Healthier, cleaner versions of this. And yes, it will take you a little bit longer. It's never taken me more than an hour, right? If you're doing a cooked dish, and I have ways to make my stuff quick because I don't make meals that take longer than an hour, so I don't really know, cooked or not. Like I don't. So, but with raw vegan gourmet, again, even with that, it's basically going to take you the same time as a cooked dish the way I make it, right? Because there are some recipes where you're dehydrating for 24 hours and it's like I don't have that kind of time, you know.
But
And yeah.
if you planned it, Sam, it's not a problem because let's say tomorrow you want something for dehydrate 24 hours. You set it
Mhm.
up from today, you forget about it, it's in the dehydrator. Tomorrow when you're ready for it, it's ready.
Yeah, what
So
have
that's
you
not
made?
hard.
What have you made
Huh?
with the dehydrator?
Oh, I made a lot of stuff. I made stuffed bell pepper with that.
But not
I
overnight. That's not hours of
No, no,
dehydrating.
no. What? No, I started that. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's supposed to be in there. Mine went for 8 hours.
The stuffed
My
bell
stuffed
pepper?
bell pepper, yes.
Oh, I've never dehydrated it that long. I only did
Eight
4 hours, I think was
eight
the
hours,
most.
but you see, depends on the time I have it on the temperature though. And
Hmm.
I did mine for 8 hours. And to be honest with you, when I take it out, it's just like warm to me. It wasn't hot, warm.
Hmm.
But it tastes
Yeah.
very good. But it's just ready about the time at dinner time. So that's what I'm saying. It's not like something you go and sit down. You have to turn down the fire, make sure it don't burn and all that stuff. Dehydrating stuff is it's not hard for me. It's very easy. I've
Yeah.
done I've done chips in there, plantain chips, the same thing.
Yeah.
So anything that cookies, I've done cookies in there, oatmeal cookies. You know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah, so it
it's not
doesn't have to
hard.
be time consuming. And so we have some questions in the chat. Dahlia is saying, what food is good for joint pain? And what I'm going to say, Dahlia, a couple things. For you and anybody else who has this question around inflammation of the joints, I did a really great webinar, actually 2 different webinars that you can get access to the replay. If you go to rawfoodmealplanner.com, there's a big green button that says get started. You click on that button and you'll get some emails where you'll get a link to see the replay. But to answer your question, um, all these raw foods are great for a variety of different things, and I think people focus too much on macronutrients like protein and fat and all this. Like, the micronutrients are essential, right? Like, micronutrients, because you want cellular renewal, right? You want, every time, like, there's like, we have cells dying off and new cells coming online, and you want to give the new cells the proper building blocks. So when it comes to joint pain, we're thinking about inflammation. So what's contributing? It's more about what you are doing and need to take out versus what you need to put in, right? Obviously, when you take out, you're not going to not eat anything, right? You're going to eat something, but it's more about what you're taking out, and you want to take out the inflammatory foods. So like, there's a lot. Obviously, meat, dairy, eggs, they're all inflammatory. Gluten can be inflammatory, and oil is what I'm seeing a lot of time for folks with arthritis and inflammation is oil. They're consuming oils. It doesn't even matter if you are eating extra virgin olive oil. Like, for folks who have like extreme, like, they're deformed with arthritis, eating out for them, they cannot. It will trigger pain and all this, but you can actually alleviate all of those arthritic symptoms by taking oil out your diet completely. Arthur is here with us live, says, wonderful discussion. Arthur, thank you so much for joining us live. I appreciate that. Yeah, Dahlia, rawfoodmealplanner.com, rawfoodmealplanner.com. It's actually below this video. So wherever you're watching this, I think on Facebook, but if you're on YouTube, wherever, the link for that website is on under this video. Dahlia says, I use coconut oil and a special olive oil. Yeah, and so if you're having joint pain, I would experiment with removing that. So one of the other myths is that the diet is expensive. So, Ma, you watch prices more than I do, so I think you are better suited to answer this than me. And feel free to give an honest answer to this. I have my opinion, but you know, I want you to take the floor.
Mm-hmm. As far as when you said, repeat what you just said.
Some people feel it's just too expensive to do.
No, I don't think so. I think eating raw is less expensive than if you have to cook, because let's say you buy a pound of spinach, 1 pound of spinach, and you steam that spinach, it gone down to like a little handful, like it just the amount in your fist. Let's say you put that spinach in a bowl and you season it the way you want to season it, and you eat it raw. It fills you up more. You get more from it because it's more filling by it being raw, and it have all that moisture water base in it and stuff. It fills you up more. You're more filled than if you cook it. I mean, it's a very non-costly way. I mean, I'm only speaking from my experience. So it all depends on where you shop too. You have to be careful where you shop. I personally like to shop at Whole Foods. I don't mind Trader Joe, but Whole Foods is my place because it gives me more of a variety of stuff. This way I can be more, have more choices of when I'm preparing my meals.
Yeah. And I would say I don't really watch prices that closely.
I do.
Right? I couldn't tell you how much the romaine lettuce cost that I was eating this week, or how much the beets cost. Like, I couldn't tell you how much, because I don't really watch it like that. If I know I need to eat, and so for folks who have questions around this too, I wrote a book about this called You Can Afford to Be Healthy, and I highly suggest you read it. And I'm specifically speaking to people who are above the poverty line, right? If you're below the poverty line, we're having a different conversation, right? But if you're above the poverty line, you have an income. For me, it's a matter of having a budget, which I do have a budget, right? But I'm not going to, because there's this woman, her name is Tiffany the Budgetnista, right? And I'm a fan of her work, right? I'm sorry, this is not a negative on her, right? I'm a fan of her work, love everything she puts out. You should read her books, right? She has this concept called a noodle budget for like if you hit on hard economic times, right? So like you lose a job or something like this, and so you can drop down to your noodle budget, right? And the reason it was named Noodle Budget is because like if she's the way she says is like if you have to eat ramen noodles every day until you get financially, better. Now to me, like I said, if you are below the poverty line, you're in survival mode, and I get that, right? So like, let me just park it over there, okay? You're gonna do what you're gonna do. If you're above the poverty line, right? These things should never even be an option. Like ramen noodles, packaged chips, like the brain will want to go after calorie dense foods, right, when really the body needs nutrient dense foods, exactly, right? So if you already have like and I'm going to use this terminology from this woman, Susan Pierce Thompson. She has this book, Bright Line Eating, right? If you have these bright lines, basically around what is acceptable food to eat, right? So like for me, plant foods are here. Unacceptable would be meat, dairy, eggs, fish, right? Fish to me is meat. Anything with flesh, eyes, parents, right? So in this acceptable bucket, right? And obviously ultra processed foods is unacceptable. So I'm in this acceptable bucket, right? So out of this, this is what I'm going to eat, and I'm not going to starve myself. So if I'm going to cut from my budget, I'm not cutting my food budget. So even the concept of expensive versus non-expensive when it comes to food, to me, eating and food is a basic need, right? Just like shelter. And yeah, you could say housing is too expensive, but my mind doesn't even really go there, because like if I'm living in a place and I don't have any other place to live, right? Like let's say I was living in New York, for example, right? And the rental rates are what they are. I could cry all the time about, the rental rates is too high, and people do, and they should, whatever, do what you do. But at the same time, I need to live somewhere. I can't live on the street, right? And like I said, I'm talking to people above the poverty line. So you have to make some decisions, right? Which means, and we were just talking about this. I just published a blog on how Black women in particular need to think about money, right? And what's needed for our quality of life. And so that's why like my whole framing around expensive, like I'm going to eat, I'm not going to starve myself, nor am I going to eat myself into disease, because disease is super expensive, right? So like if I can't afford to eat well, I definitely can't afford a chronic disease. You understand? I mean, I'm self-employed, I have to have insurance. I got to pay for it myself. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a different conversation. It just really depends on your priorities, your resources, your situation, obviously, because the concept of expensive is very relative. And I think a lot of times it has to do with people's values, because I've heard people say, which is why I wrote my book, that eating healthy is too expensive, but yet they're in the salon getting $500 goddess locks, paying $1,000 for some bag from somebody who knows, values. You know what I'm saying? You just telling me you value this other stuff, right, and you really don't value your health. So
right. Well, when I said that I am particular about where I shop, I drive 30 minutes to get to go shop where I shop. I have to pay gas to get there. Now there is, and I can call this store out, there's Costco over here that's selling my salad that I want with all the stuff in there for $4 and change. And there's Whole Food here selling it for $1 more. I could actually walk from Whole Food to Costco. So I say, okay, let me buy this at Costco, let me buy this at Whole Food. And that's how I shop because I'm very good with managing money. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always good with managing money. I'm not, and when it come on to my health, I don't put anything above my health. Like my health come first because without my health I have nothing. So I never think that the food is too expensive. But if I'm in the vicinity where I can save a dollar or $2, I'm gonna save that $2. But I'm gonna get the right stuff. I'm getting the right stuff. So you
Yeah.
understand what I'm going at? It's not that I'm saying I wouldn't buy it because it's expensive. No, nothing too expensive to put inside of your body. No.
And we're in different situations too, because like if you have the time, and I shop like that too, where I get the
I'm
bulk of my
retired.
stuff.
I'm retired.
Exactly. So I've historically shopped in all the cities I've lived. I start with the most affordable place and get all the stuff I could get there, and then I go to the next more expensive, but they have more variety, and then I get my stuff, right? There's a strategy, right, to keep costs as low as possible, but at the same time, I will never nickel and dime my food because I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna starve myself. I'm not about that life, okay?
No, no.
and secondly, because I've seen people do like, and these things, these campaigns were really really good campaigns for a purpose. Like there are videos on YouTube on like how to do vegan $4 a day, how to do raw vegan $4 a day. You even have the book Raw Vegan on a Budget where she's tracking
And
every
I still
little.
use it. Yes.
Yeah. So there are ways to do that, right? And where that conversation came from is like for folks on food assistance, how can they use the limited food budget for this healthier way of eating? And so, and I
Right.
appreciate those resources. They exist
Right.
online for people, right? At the same time, for me personally, my thing is like, how can I avoid being in those situations? Because now you're talking about small quantities of food, and I like to eat. I want to eat to satisfaction. I don't want to starve myself. And now you talking about making the dollar stretch. You talking about portion control. I'm not about portion control. I want to
Oh,
eat and be full. You understand?
right.
So, now we're just talking about like economics, and yeah, I mean, technically, I guess some people, if you're below the poverty line, like I said, it's a completely different conversation. You're gonna do what you need to do to get through that moment, but hopefully also making plans to get out of that situation, making a
Right.
strategy.
Mm.
So yes, and then also too with raw gourmet. So with my recipes for folks who do my raw meal prep challenges, you'll notice like there's some pates and things that we make, seed pates, nut pates. These things we're using nuts and seeds that have fat and protein. So they're satiating. And when you make them in bulk, it lasts for the week. So for the busy people, right, you have this thing that, like all raw foods, you're eating your water through the food. So you're getting full off water and fiber, which yes, when you cook, you're losing some of that fiber, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
chemically changing.
Mm.
But mostly you're losing the water. So that's why it's not as filling. You don't see that bulk, and you're not feeling that bulk when you eat it inside. But these nut and seed pates help. I feel they to me they work like batch prepping and have the same kind of affordability locked in, because I find myself, I don't need to eat so much quantity. Like for example, if I were to compare a serving, like how much lentils I need to eat to feel satisfied versus a sesame seed pate. I'm eating less sesame seed pate versus the lentils, because the lentils, you know, they're filling, but I have to eat so much more than the
Right.
quantity of the seeds. But
Right. Yeah.
you have to experiment with yourself and see how your body's responding to it.
Exactly.
Okay, another myth. Raw vegan diet will leave you feeling weak and tired. Ma, has that been your experience?
That's where I get my energy from.
Yeah.
That it make you very energetic because
Yeah, I'm
I
not sure
start
what
up.
people are eating if they feeling weak and tired. They're probably just eating leaves alone.
No.
I
See,
don't know.
see, No, because I mean, I started my morning off with a green smoothie. And I drink it, I could run track. I could hop, skip, and jump. That's where I get my energy from. So no, you do get energy from raw food. My low energy comes from when I cook something. I just feel sluggish, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've
Cuz
been there. I know what cooked food do for me and I know what raw food do for me. But no, that's a myth. Raw food does not deplete your energy. It gives you energy. You're very energized when you have it. Start out with some vegetable juice in the morning or some green smoothie, and then you'll be energized because you get your energy from your first meal of the day anyhow.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And me personally, like, I went raw for weight loss, right? um, and also to get into vegetables, and that started with the green smoothie, right? Um, but the reason why I stay raw is because digestion, like the cooked food, my system, I have trouble feeling good digesting cooked food if I don't eat any raw. Like I can't just have a bowl of black beans and quinoa. I will feel tired right after. I feel like trash. I feel like I swallowed bricks, you know? Even though it
Yeah.
could taste really good, it just feels so heavy. Like literally what it does, because from a neuroscience perspective, when you eat, all plant foods are carbs, right? And you eat these foods and it just really kind of like shuts down the prefrontal cortex. It calms down the anterior cingulate as well. So if you're a worrier or you tend to take a lot of worries to bed, then definitely load up on your starchy vegetables and your quinoas and the beans and stuff. Load up on that stuff. Because it will definitely calm your brain down. But for me, this stuff, it just is sluggish digestion. Like it goes down so slow and I get so tired. I need to have specifically vegetables to get that down, you know. Um, and fruits are important too because they're just fun to have, you know.
Yeah.
Fruits are fun, and if you're doing 100% raw and keeping fats pretty low, like if you're trying to balance out hormones, you know, or keep clear skin, you want to keep fats relatively low. I mean, it really depends on the person. Some people really thrive high fat, which you can do completely raw. Some people thrive high protein, which you can do completely raw, right? Um, but for me, like to keep, I do well with my fats relatively low, so I would get most of my calories from fruits, right? The where you get into a little bit of an issue if you're doing 100% raw is if you're just doing leafy green vegetables. Yeah, you're not going to have enough calories for your metabolic functioning, right? That's going to put you in a dangerous situation. It does need to be balanced in that aspect. And Dahlia says, I'm enjoying this conversation. Have to focus on work. Love you, ladies. All right, Dahlia, thanks for joining us live. And we're actually going to wrap up because there's so many myths out there, but I think
Yes.
these are the big ones. So I would love to hear in the comments below for the 6 of you joining us live. Thank you so much for watching. Just let me know in the comments below if there are other concerns that maybe we didn't mention. We didn't talk about muscle building, but soon I will have a special guest on the show to talk about how she built muscle on a raw vegan diet. And I'll also have some resources that I'll be posting in the Raw Food Health Empowerment Circle Facebook group in just a few moments as we wrap up here. So, Ma, do you have any words before we close for the day?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to go on this journey. It's been a blessing for me. To be honest with you, when I started going raw, I end up losing, I was 170 pounds. I end up losing 30 pounds, which I'm now 140. I didn't go on it to lose weight, but surprisingly for me, I was very happy when I've never been 140 in many, many years. But right now my weight is stabilized to 140. It have moved. So that means there's something going on right in my body. Things are very stabilized. So do not be afraid to go on the journey. There's so much good things that you get from it. You don't have to go to the doctor and he give you all these prescriptions, because the vegetable, the fruits and the vegetable, and your crucifix and your omega-3, your flaxseed, chia seeds, all those things will take care. That's your medicine. This says, let your food be your medicine, let your medicine be your food. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. And if you want to dive deeper into this lifestyle, I highly encourage you to sign up for my upcoming a call on my website to talk about Conquer Your Cravings, my 3-month immersion program, to see if it's a perfect fit for you. If you're curious but you're not sure where to start, on this coaching call, I basically help you move forward, whatever it looks like for you. It may not be 100% raw. It may be high raw. Ultimately, we start with the goal. What is it that you're looking to achieve? So if you're interested in that, the links for future support is in the description to this video, also over at rawfoodmealplanner.com. And Arthur says, how would you build muscle as a raw vegan? Yeah. And ultimately, I'm going to give you the short and sweet version of it, Arthur, in 2 seconds. How do you build muscle as a raw vegan? You eat enough for yourself, for your own metabolic function, and for the muscle that you're building, for the activity you're doing to build the muscle and the muscle that you're building, right? And also, you have to train. You build muscle by training, right? You have to put that muscle under pressure in order to get it to be able to handle bigger pressure. And that's how you do it. That's the short and sweet of it. But I'll have a guest on the show soon. But this is all part of metabolic health. We talk about it a lot, especially with my mom being 72. Muscle building, muscle maintenance and building is super important when you are 65 plus. Right. And so and for folks who are younger than 65 of working age, muscle is super important, especially in your lower body, because the bigger the muscle development in your lower body, the bigger your cerebellum. When you strength train, this stuff is you're basically building a bigger brain, right? And this is all based on neuroscience. So and it helps with our metabolic functioning, keep blood sugars balanced, keep hormones balanced, keep our bones strong, regardless of the diet you're doing. You need to be strength training. So with that being said, we'll wrap up for today. Thank y'all for joining us. Arthur, Dahlia, thank you for the comments in the chat and for being so engaged. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.